r/rules horror. Posted by you/TheGeckoWrangler. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Broken Hand Pond. Hello Daryl. It's been quite a while since we last sent you to Cribble Rock Run. Given the nature of the individuals drawn to that area during the holidays combined with that unfortunate turn your last delivery almost took, we've been a bit hesitant on sending you there again. That said, the holidays are now over, and several of the neighborhood's more dangerous visitors have left for the year. Therefore, we'll shortly be sending you on another delivery to Cribble Rock Run. However, this next customer happens to live in one of the more hazardous parts of the neighborhood, Broken Hand Pond. Named for its resemblance to a twisted, badly mangled hand, this moderately large body of water is home to a number of our more troublesome customers. And as it happens, they aren't the only hazards the pond has to offer. Many more unsavory creatures live within the pond's waters, and several more keep extremely close to the water's edge. For this reason, we have a set of guidelines specifically for Broken Hand Pond, as to avoid any unfortunate incidents. We've attached them below, and ask that you read them in their entirety. It's our #1 priority to make sure you're properly prepared. Rules for Broken Hand Pond. 1. Broken Hand Pond is completely encircled by the road Champlain. It is therefore the only road you should be on when delivering there. That said, you'll still see signs for a number of other roads once you've reached the pond. Ignore them all, most of these signs are traps set by the residents. The ones that aren't don't lead anywhere you want to go. 2. Before pulling onto Champlain, be sure that the road sign isn't turned upside down. If it is, turn around, call the customers, and tell them their orders have unfortunately been cancelled due to hazardous conditions. Believe it or not, they'll usually be quite understanding. That sign only flips upside down when the pond's trees have stopped behaving. It's far too risky to approach the pond when they do. 3. Towards the far end of the water, there is an unusually large, unusually tall oak tree facing the road. As it comes into view, watch its branches closely. If they seem to twitch uncontrollably as you get closer, turn around immediately. All the trees here are troublesome, but this one in particular has a nasty habit of accidentally falling on passing cars. 4. On the note of the trees, take care not to run over any roots you see stretched across the road. Best case scenario, you get a flat tire, an oil leak, or another inconvenient damage to your car. Worst case, however, tree roots will start rapidly tearing through the underside of your car. The whole vehicle could start flying through the air and into the pond, or you might even find yourself wrapped within a nest of unforgiving branches. We think it goes without saying that none of these things are desirable. 5. Do not, under any circumstances, touch the water. Several of its inhabitants are highly sensitive to vibrations, and likely to inspect anything that disturbs the surface. 6. You may notice a white horse with a badly tangled mane at the water's edge. If it approaches you, don't let it touch your car, and absolutely do not touch it with your bare skin. The fur covering this horse is a surprisingly sticky adhesive, and surprisingly strong. The creature itself is more than capable of dragging anything it traps back into the water. 7. Be cautious of anything you hear when near the pond. Several of its more predatory inhabitants use a variety of sounds to lure potential prey close. These sounds include, but are not limited to, musical instruments, harmonious singing, the crying of an infant, children laughing gleefully, and a man singing about azuki beans. 8. Speaking of sounds, you might hear a panicked voice telling you to run. If you do, go towards it. The creature responsible is clever, and excellent at throwing its voice. Go in what seems to be the opposite direction of the sound, and you'll in fact be heading right to its source. 9. Always watch for wet spots on the road. That's a big indicator that someone or something has left the pond. None of the ones who do like straying far from the water, so they'll probably be nearby. They might even be waiting to ambush someone as they drive past. 10. You'll notice there's a large flock of ducks swimming on the pond. Keep an eye on the flock's whereabouts. Several of the pond's inhabitants love duck meat, so the birds always keep to the most uninhabited parts of the pond. You can use this to get an idea of where everyone is based on what parts of the pond the flock avoids. 11. If the ducks ever fly away, turn around and leave the pond's vicinity immediately. There's only one thing that scares those birds enough to make them leave the pond, and it's best you never find out what that thing is. 12. If you notice bright, flickering balls of light floating just above the water's surface, avoid looking at them directly. They have a powerful influence, and you might be inspired to drive your car off the road and into the water if you look at them too long. 13. There's a small waterlogged cabin on the eastern side of the pond. Normally, it's leaning heavily towards the water. If, however, You notice that the structure appears to be tilted towards the shore. Stay as far from that side of the pond as possible, and be certain not to drive past that house. The house's owner is hunting, and he has quite the appetite. 14. If you notice a large rope stretched across the road, turn around immediately. That rope is a makeshift fishing line, and its caster won't hesitate to pull a big catch into the water. 15. If at any point you observe fish floating up and out of the water, be absolutely quiet. One of Broken Hand Pond's inhabitants is extremely particular about everything around her. She's beyond intolerant of anything she considers abnormal, which is not only why she removes any fish she dislikes from the pond, but also why she'll yank you through the car's windows if you make any sounds she doesn't approve of. 16. When leaving Champlain, be positive that you don't smell wet moss lingering in your vehicle. If you do, pull over, and demand that any passengers return home immediately. Shortly, your trunk should fly open, and a little creature resembling a small child covered in swamp debris will come crawling out, and promptly scurry towards the pond on all fours shortly. Oliver's not malicious or ill-willed, but he's impishly mischievous. We couldn't even tell you how many accidents he's unintentionally caused by pulling pranks on the car's hapless drivers. That's the basics of what you need to know about Broken Hand Pond. As we're sure you know by now, more than a few people go missing around Cribble Rock Run every year. However, more than a fair share of them can be contributed to the pond, although most of its residents generally keep to themselves. The ones that don't tend to be more than slightly problematic. Take the giant oak, for instance. If you were to look closely at its trunk, you'd realize there's bits of metal sticking out from creases in the wood. The reason for this is the same reason that oak is so big: it's not entirely made of wood. Numerous cars have been crushed, folded, and wrapped into the trunk of that tree, along with their unfortunate owners. To the oak, all those cars were trophies, and sometimes it just can't resist taking another one for the collection. That said, the oak is only a part of why Broken Hand Pond is so dangerous. That tree isn't the only one out looking for prizes, though it's certainly the most forgiving. You see, the tree tends to end its victims' lives so quickly they never realize what happened. Nothing else in those waters gives their prey that luxury. So do be careful when you're near that pond, for every time you look at its waters, at least a dozen more eyes are looking back at you. Sincerely, Nick and Rick Castillo. The next story of this video, posted by /TheGeckoWrangler. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Nicholas. Hello Daryl. Christmas Eve is all but upon us, and it's just about time for that delivery we mentioned earlier. While we've already warned you of the dangers that come with delivering on Christmas Eve, there's a lot you need to know about the customer you're delivering to. All the information you should need can be found below, so please, read it thoroughly. It's always best to be properly prepared. Customer name, Nicholas Center. Address, 0021 Melody CT. Regular order, large dessert pizza, crust made from gingerbread, topped with peppermints and diced sugar plums. Residence description, quaint log cabin, with a large holly wreath display proudly on the door. Regardless of the weather, the house will be covered in snow, given that its owner is present. Customer description, Nicholas is a relatively large old man. He's about 6.5 feet tall, and just a tad bit overweight. He wears a large gray fur coat with white embellishments, and a white trimmed red hat. His hair is white as snow, his cheeks and nose are nearly always cherry red, and he's constantly smiling as if he just heard the best news in the world. Additionally, he carries a large bag overflowing with candy, oranges, apples, and various spices on his back. Rules for delivery. 1. Once you arrive, listen closely before knocking on the door. As long as you hear Christmas music playing, interrupted occasionally by jolly laughter, you're safe to knock on the door. 2. If, upon listening at the door, you hear even the faintest sound of scratching, clawing, howling, roaring, or sadistic chuckling, leave the pizza on the porch, honk the horn to let Nicholas know his pizza has arrived, and leave. Don't worry about the payment. Nicholas is beyond honorable, and he'll be certain to reimburse us, most likely with an extra $20 and generous tip as apology for the inconvenience. Trust us, you do not want to meet the source behind those unsettling noises. 3. Assuming you were able to safely knock on the door, Nicholas will answer shortly. He'll act like you're a long-lost friend, and pay with a $100 bill. He will insist, however, that none of that is your tip, and instead give you a small box made entirely of quarters. That, he'll say, is your tip. 4. Nick will say this himself, but don't open the box until you're home. He's a generous old man, be also a stickler for tradition. You'll be beyond tempted to open it immediately, but again, do not do it, Doing it there after Nicholas has told you not to is a serious mistake. 5. After you've made the delivery, Nicholas will invite you inside. Accept his invitation. Not accepting it is nothing short of rude in this case. You do not want to be rude around this house. 6. When inside, stay as far away from the wooden door next to the fireplace as you can. There's a reason so many locks and chains are fastened around it, even getting within a few feet of it could have serious consequences. 7. Nicholas will offer you a mug of hot chocolate. Again, accept it, as denying it would be offensive to Nick. 8. Nicholas tends to be quite talkative. He'll often end up asking you various questions about yourself, ranging from your various preferences to personal matters he shouldn't know to ask. Whatever he asks, answer truthfully. Not only can Nicholas recognize when someone's lying, there's another individual in the house who can full-on sense it. 9. As we've probably made clear by now, avoid being even slightly rude or otherwise offensive around Nicholas. Literally, don't even think about anything even remotely hateful. Negative thoughts and emotions have a powerful effect on a friend of Nick's. 10. Old Nicholas is extremely perceptive. Should you start acting or even thinking offensively, he'll warn you to stop, insisting that you might wake up old Cramps. Heed his warning. Things will get out of hand very quickly otherwise. 11. Try to listen to everything going on outside while you're in Nicholas' cabin. If you hear any rambunctious individuals nearby, politely excuse yourself, and leave immediately. Someone is about to wake up, and it's best you aren't around when he does. 12. If you do act offensively, or offensive individuals are nearby the house, things might be about to get out of hand. The chain door will start rattling and shaking with force, and a large hairy hand will start reaching through the gaps in the wood. Be careful that the hand doesn't manage to grab you. 13. Nicholas will be quick to act when Cramps starts to get free. He'll try to hold the door shut as the locks begin snapping and breaking off. At this point, get ready to leave. Nicholas isn't anywhere near as strong as Cramps, and likely won't be able to keep him from getting out. Rules for escaping Cramps. 1. If Nicholas yells for you to run, he's about to completely lose his hold on the door, and Cramps will be free shortly. It's best that you leave immediately if you haven't already. Cramps has been locked up all year, and he's more than eager for a little fun. 2. Cramps will chase you down as you flee the neighborhood. While he isn't exactly fast, he's been chasing down runaway victims for quite a while. They don't escape him on a regular basis. While we probably don't have to say this, do not let him catch you. The most merciful punishment he's ever given in this state was a partial skinning paired with the amputations of multiple fingers. 3. Cramps is extremely strategic, and knows the layout of this neighborhood quite well. However, he still has several tells you can use to avoid him. That said, you must be vigilant. If you don't act properly according with what you see and hear, you have no chance of escaping. 4. Always listen for the sounds of heavy breathing and rattling chains. Those are typically the best indicators for where Cramps is. 5. Be very, very observant as you're going down the road. Cramps will often throw things at your car in an attempt to distract you. These range from branches and rocks to lawn ornaments and mailboxes. 6. Should you hear the sound of tiles clicking, Cramps is running across the nearby rooftops. Try to spot him as quickly as you can. He'll be leaping towards you once he gets close enough. 7. Should Cramps ever yell "Run, little rabbit," you need to immediately turn around and drive in the opposite direction. He only ever says this if you're headed into an inescapable situation. 8. Be careful when you hear Cramps laughing. He has a habit of throwing his voice, and somehow even the sound of his chains, to faraway spots, as to redirect and confuse his quarry. Especially be mindful of his laugh when you're at a crossroad. 9. If Cramps ever gets out in front of your car, turn around quickly and immediately. He's been known to catch cars by throwing his chains at them as they drive past, or even just letting them run him down. The tires all but get ripped off the car when he does this. 10. If Cramps does manage to get a grip on your vehicle, your best and only option is to stop the car. His grip is too strong for you to pull away, and the longer you resist, the worse his punishment for you will be. 11. Before he punishes you, there's one last thing you can do: apologize. Apologies have no effect on Cramps, but he has a strong connection with Nicholas. They definitely have an effect on him. On the off chance that apology got Nick's attention, that may be enough to save you. Truthfully, it's the only chance you have at that point. That should be everything you need to know about Nicholas. He's been around for a very long time, as has Cramps. They work as a pair, with Nicholas rewarding those he deems good-hearted, and Cramps punishing those he deems wicked. The problem is, Cramps considers everyone to be wicked. The littlest mistake, be it a single lie or careless neglect, is enough to get his sadistic attention. And even worse, he's been waiting all year to torture someone. His first victim of every year always suffers the most. Last Christmas, a man was found in a ditch missing several of his fingernails and most of his teeth. The previous year, a notably misbehaved child woke up to find he was covered in burn marks, and badly crippled. And the year before that, a wealthy businessman discovered that his house had been burnt to the ground. Most notably, however, Cramps has never actually killed anyone, no matter what they've done. For you see, in Krampus' eyes, death is an escape. And that is one thing he will never be. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo.